Good morning once again and a very warm welcome to the Mumbai edition of the India Today Conclave. We are delighted to be here in Mumbai, the financial capital of the country, the city that is the pulse of the nation, where the power brokers of the stock markets know what will happen in New Delhi much before us news junkies in Delhi know it. Well, I'm Shweta Punch, Deputy Editor with India Today magazine and your host for the next 2 days. We have 2 very power-packed days planned for you. And without much delay, may I please invite the Chairman and the Editor-in-Chief of the India Today Group, Mr. Arun Puri, to open the conclave and please deliver the welcome address.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you all for coming in this rainy day, and that's why I love Mumbaikars. It's their spirit of can do and will do. So thank you again for coming. It's great to be back in Mumbai with another edition of the India Today Conclave. This March, we had shifted our national conclave to Delhi, as it was going to be a year defined by elections and politics and power equations at the center. But Mumbai has tugged us back. Yours is a city of enterprise, dynamism, of resilience and reinvention. Qualities our country needs across the board. As it turns out, this is also a year dominated by conversations around the economy. So it is doubly apt for us to be hosting this edition of the conclave in the financial capital of the country. The common theme running through our country and conclave is transformation. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ran his election campaign on the promise of a new India. At the start of his new term, he also promised to turn India into a $5 trillion economy over the next 5 years. Almost immediately after, voices of concern began to emerge across the country. India's GDP is down to 5%, manufacturing has slid to 0.6%, unemployment is at a 45-year high, MSMEs, which are the backbone of the economy, are badly hit. Sales in the auto sector and the FMCG have slumped. Real estate is in the doldrums. Lending is sluggish. Consumer and corporate sentiment are low. And India is also reeling under global headwinds. You'll be hearing a lot about this in the next 2 days. What are the causes and the course corrections? But the critical point here is this slowdown is an opportunity for deep introspection and concrete action. It sets the stage for real transformation. After all, as they say, never waste a good crisis. That's when people are more willing to change. I've always believed India is a rich country with poor people. We are rich in natural resources, and we are also a nation of very smart, creative, hardworking, and ambitious people. Across the world, Indians excel in every field. Given the right environment, we flourish. How is it then people with the same education and same background wilt in their own country instead of blossoming? We must ask ourselves this question. We're fortunate to have a young population whose average age will be 29 by next year, making us the youngest nation on the planet. What do we need to do to release this great energy which lies sorely underutilized? Energy that creates wealth for the individual and for the nation. What is it in our environment that prevents us from realizing our full potential? Ladies and gentlemen, my answer is simple. It's our government and our political class. And this does not apply to any particular party or regime. This is a problem that has plagued us for several decades. Which is not to say that I don't believe in our parliamentary democracy. Far from it. I believe that for all its faults, it is the only way India can be governed. The regional and ethnic aspirations of our diverse country be accommodated. However, over the 73 years since independence, barring a few periods, we have seen rampant populism, self-serving appeasement, irrational economic policies, and just plain bad leadership. This has resulted in an economy riddled with contradictions and bedeviled by entrenched vested interests. It has also a society that is often at war with itself in the name of caste, creed, or religion. To change all this is a Herculean task. In a fortunate confluence of history, we have the right man in the right place. He can fix things if he wants to. He is the supreme leader of the party and his government. We know that he has the courage to take bold decisions. He's willing to go to places where other politicians fear to venture. Look at what the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan has achieved. India could declare itself open defecation free by the end of this year. He's a visionary, he's a doer, he's a master communicator. He wants to change India whether you like it or not. The person I'm talking about, of course, is none other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi. In 44 years in journalism, I haven't seen a leader like him. Let me at this point quote to you an academician, Bhanu Pratap Mehta, a person who is no admirer of Modi, but he has caught the essence of the Modi phenomenon. And he writes, even his, and listen to this carefully, even his staunchest critics have to acknowledge that he has made himself an inescapable figure. Someone who has colonized our consciousness so much that even criticism only serves to underscore his importance and reinforce his imaginative hold. His triumph is not what he does, it is that he is the focal point of everything we do. With this kind of standing, there's no limit to what this Prime Minister can do. And I'm glad to see that the Prime Minister recognized the problem that it is the government. In his Independence Day speech, he said, and I quote, "I repeatedly exhort my officials that after so many years of independence, can we not do something about cutting down red tape and reducing the involvement of the government in the daily life of the common man?" Now all he has to do is walk the talk. Here are my two humble suggestions how this can be done. Firstly, any economic policy must be within an ideological framework. Once you commit to a core belief, the rest will fall in place. The policies will also be coherent and not ad hoc. Their core belief is in one word. It is the market. What do I mean by this? What I mean is, let market forces sort out economic issues. I believe if you want to keep the government out of people's way, you need to believe in the marketplace. Government policy should be framed keeping this in mind. Let competition, not government fiat, reduce prices. Let consumers decide at what price point they want to buy. The marketplace can be cruel at times, but that's how you get new industries, new products, and innovation. That is how you get a vibrant economy. The consumer is king, not the government. For example, the government controls the prices of much of agricultural produce, of fertilizers, has price controls over 300 drugs, 24 medical devices, and even cable channels. Is this all necessary? The government's job is to set standards, prevent malpractices and monopolies. It should do this and step aside. It should encourage competition rather than restrict it. Instead, the government does not trust the markets to do their work. The PM also made a very significant statement in his Independence Day speech, and I quote, "The need of the hour is to recognize and encourage the wealth creators of our nation. They should receive more honor. If wealth is not created, wealth cannot be distributed." So wealth should not be a dirty word in India. Look at the suspicion and automatic distrust they are looked at. Tax terrorism, jail terms for the smallest deviations, super taxes, lookout notices without warning the person. Such measures have no place in a society that respects entrepreneurship. If this change in mindset percolates down the government system, it will probably lead to the unleashing of animal spirits that the government so desperately wants to revive. One eminent banker put it to me quite well. He says, if you have a stained, torn shirt, what do? You repair the tear, you wash and clean the shirt, but you don't lose the shirt. The government should remember this. While cleaning the system, we should not lose our shirt. Having said that, I would urge India's rich to introspect as well. We are drowning in stories of corruption, crony capitalism, NPAs, and willful defaulters. With great freedom comes great responsibility. We cannot argue for a free market if the very idea of the market is distorted by malpractices. I would also urge everyone to remember what is perhaps the most shameful statistic in India. The top 1% of this country owns more than 50% of its wealth. Such consolidation of wealth is not only obscene, it is also myopic. If prosperity is not passed on, it can only result in a stagnant and unhealthy economy. We cannot speak of India's demographic dividend, but refuse to pay the dividend. My second suggestion is that if you want to minimize government intervention, you have to begin at home. That is, reduce the number of ministries in the central government and in the state governments. As they say in Hindi, na rahegi baans, na bajegi bansuri. We have at the moment 51 ministries, 53 departments, and 83 commissions in India. In comparison, the UK has 21 ministries, and the US has 15 executive departments, which are the equivalent of their ministries. So you can see how overloaded we are. Now with reforms replacing the license Raj, most ministries have lost their reason to exist. Several ministries just oversee entities that are supposed to be autonomous, like SAIL, Air India, Coal India, Doordarshan, ONGC, and so on. Is this all necessary? Over a decade ago, India Today commissioned a renowned economist, Vivek Debroy, on this issue. And I don't think things have changed that much. He came to the conclusion that India needs only 12 ministries among them. Among them are the PMO, Internal Affairs, Rural, Home Energy, Finance, Social Justice, Commerce and Industry, and Environment. I suspect many of these ministries exist because they are handed over as rewards to loyalists for winning an election. With the Prime Minister's dominance over his party, I don't think this compulsion really exists for him. To be fair, this government has made a concerted effort through technology and close monitoring to ensure that welfare benefits reach the entitled with minimum pilferage. However, during the NDA's first term, I must say, the number of central government employees has increased by 500,000. These may be right people in the right places, but what about the others? If you want minimum government, you must have less bureaucrats. Connected to this is the role of public sector undertakings. Prime Minister Modi has often said a government has no business being in business. Sadly, the government is very much in business. The Modi government has dismantled many Nehruvian concepts. Even the Nehru jacket has been replaced by the Modi kurta. However, the one they have not only kept alive but also allowed to flourish is what Pandit Nehru called the temples of India. These are the public sector undertakings. Many of them are now temples of doom. There are 257 operational central PSUs, out of which 71 are loss-making. They made annual losses of over rupees 30,000 crores as on March 2018. This amount can provide midday meals to over 120 million children for 3 years. Worse are the state PSUs. Of the 1,308 public sector enterprises, only 989 are working, and the quantum loss occurred by them annually is 1 lakh crore, which is a little more than the total amount India spends on education. PSU banks are another sordid story. In the last 2 years, the government has recapitalized them to the extent of 2.7 lakh crores. This sum is sufficient to pay the wages of 250 million Manrega workers for 4 years. In any market economy, such losses in PSUs and PSUs should be borne by shareholders who have chosen to invest in them. But in our country, it's the taxpayers who bear the cost, even though they have no say in these decisions. It's your money and my money which is used to pay for the follies of bankers and their cohorts. It's a colossal waste of the nation's wealth. This money could be better used for providing welfare to the needy and for building world-class infrastructure. The government at all levels has to get out of the business of running a business. It must realize that continued control of businesses will mean the kiss of death for them. I believe if these two things don't change in India, I believe that we will not make much of a difference. We will keep blundering on the way we have for the last so many decades. I think the Prime Minister needs to display the same audacity and foresight in his economic decisions as he has in his political ones. The abrogation of Article 370, which took away the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, was one such bold move recently. It has changed the conversation about Kashmir. We now talk about taking over POK. The Kashmir chapter is closed as far as Pakistan is concerned. Our neighbor is running from pillar to post, trying to get support for its claim, but in vain. This is a triumph for Prime Minister Modi's personalized, agile global diplomacy. He's got even major Islamic countries supporting India's action. Domestically, the question is, when will normalcy return? The Prime Minister has been almost universally applauded for his decisiveness, but a prolonged lockdown does not sit well with a democracy. The true test of this decision will lie in how quickly all civil liberties and communication can be restored and how quickly the government can deliver on its promises to Kashmiris to see a better life through development. I'm afraid this is going to be a long, tough haul. Another not so talked about area that Mr. Modi has been decisive about, that is India's other mega crisis, water. 85% of India's surface water is polluted. Its groundwater is severely stressed. Many of rural India reel under drought, and 20 cities, including Delhi, are slated to run out of water by 2020. That is by next year. This crisis is not new. It has been building up for years, but the government is not passing the buck. The Prime Minister has set up a consolidated Jal Shakti ministry and has an inspired plan not only to fix it, but also to turn the water crisis into an opportunity. You'll be hearing about both Kashmir and the scale of the water crisis and the plan to fix it at the Conclave. These are thought-provoking sessions. There are other thought-provoking sessions on the agenda. Xenophobia and the crisis on migration have changed global politics in India. In India, too, we have a growing demand to weed foreigners out. But do we have the full picture on migration? The session on Conclave promises to be eye-opening. While we're trying to place space rovers in the cosmos, technology and AI are changing the landscape much closer home. We have a fascinating session lined up on sex robots, the impact of technology, and on human sexuality, and the emergence of digisexuality, a new sexual identity across the world. We also have two brilliant scientists telling us about diseases, pandemics, the human brain, and the most cutting-edge discoveries related to the human body. Finally, of course, we have several sessions on politics. We have another hectic season of elections coming up. Maharashtra itself will be choosing a new government, and you'll be hearing about the key players in the election and the young Chief Minister, Mr. Fadnavis. This is a good time then to focus on the most important issue in India, the quality of our political leadership. The lifeblood of our democracy is robust politics. And I want to say this as strongly as I can. India is being led down by the quality of its leadership. Across the spectrum, we have leaders who are uninformed, inarticulate, and out of touch with people's aspirations. A large amount of the MPs in the new Lok Sabha have criminal records. Corruption is rampant. Defections have become as common cold. There's virtually no opposition left in the country. This is when, with a strong government in power, India needs an opposition that is credible, clear, charismatic, vigilant, and energetic. India is a proud, argumentative society, and political leaders in power and out of power must preserve the space for dissent. A strong government, by its very definition, is one who is confident enough to take fact-based criticism. Democracy is our greatest treasure. We must cherish it, protect it, and promote it. And one way to do it is to ensure the freedom of the press. There's no point shooting the messenger, because in today's world, the message still remains. There are bad apples in every sphere, but you shouldn't condemn the whole tree for that. I plead with you to support an independent media every which way you can. This then, ladies and gentlemen, is the most crucial area for action, introspection, and transformation. A country is only as good as its leaders. I hope the conversations of the next 2 days will inspire many new thoughts and the will to act. Once again, a very warm welcome to you all, and thank you all for coming, and happy conclaving.
Thank you very much, Mr. Puri, for that very powerful speech. There were so many gems in there. One of my favorite ones is that a